Hello guys, and welcome back to Doc My Garage, and today you probably landed on this video because your vehicle does not start. This video is how to test your battery and your alternator. So these are the tools you can use to test your battery and your alternator. Now I do understand that not everyone does have access to all of these tools. So what are the cheapest tools you can start off with? So the cheapest one I would recommend is a battery voltmeter, and this one can set you back around about 5 to 20 bucks depending on the brand that you buy. It just plugs directly into your cigarette lighter and it does display the voltage of the vehicle. Now it's not the most accurate method, however it is pretty close. We have got a battery charger, maintainer and desulfator as well. This is a 6 amp charger, a battery charger, maintainer, desulfator, and also you can test the cold cranking amps, the crank start and the battery condition as well. A battery jump starter. So in order to do the test you need a battery jump starter, and for those of you who do not have a battery jump starter, you can always use jump leads. These are very cheap to get and you can use another vehicle to start your other vehicle with a dead battery. I know it's a little bit dark. It's because the vehicle is parked in the garage. However, the video is going to brighten up because I'm going to be on the outside of the vehicle. Now, I'm going to start the car and let's see what happens. As I turn the key, dead as a doornail. You're going to try to turn on your lights. Turn on your dome lights as well. As you can see, it's completely dead. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to test the battery using this one. I'm going to determine the voltage of the battery currently. If you do not have a battery tester, then you can use a standard multimeter. Just put it to the volt position and then you can test it using the leads. So I've now plugged this unit into the electricity power. Now I'm going to test the battery using this method. It is reading 2.5 volts. So the battery is completely dead at the moment. For those of you who want to skip ahead, you can skip ahead, but however this is valuable information. So this particular one is a 12 volt battery. Now when the battery is fully charged, it is actually 12.6 volts. So it's a 6 cell battery, and if you really look at it, if you divided 12.6 divided by 6, you'll have 2.1 volts per cell. So if you fully charge the battery up and it only reaches up to 10.5 volts or somewhere thereabouts, that means one of the cells in the battery is actually dead and there's nothing you can do but to throw that battery away. Now the other thing to consider as well is the cold cranking amps. So if you live in cold climates where it goes below 0 Celsius, then you do have to consider cold cranking amps, or even if you don't, consider it anyway. So cold cranking amps is basically when you start your vehicle and the temperature is 0 Celsius or below. That's how many amps the battery can output for the first 30 seconds. So that is very important, and over time the cold cranking amp will deteriorate as well, and that could kill your battery as well. The next thing you got to see for a battery is your RC, which is your reserve capacity. Now reserve capacity basically is when your vehicle's alternator fails, that means you're only running on battery power. Now RC is a reserve capacity and it does that in minutes. So this RC is 100. So basically if the battery is fully charged and the alternator fails, then the battery is going to last for approximately 100 minutes considering it was fully charged before the car completely comes to a stop. We have determined that the battery has only got 2.5 volts left. So what do? Now we can jump start the vehicle to see if at all it jump starts. Now how do you know if the alternator has failed or either the battery has failed? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to attach a jump starter to the vehicle and I'm going to try to start it up. I am going to put the battery jump starter on the vehicle and try to start it up. Now this is your positive alligator clip and your negative alligator clip. And right here is where you turn on the power so that it jump starts the vehicle. So you never want to turn it on right immediately. So you want to put the jump starter on like so and like so. Give it a good ground post. Turn it on. Alright, so now I'm going to start up the vehicle. Now one thing to note, and please exercise caution when you're doing this, if you're starting the vehicle in a garage, it could fill up with fumes from the exhaust. So please exercise caution. So I just want to take you away from the vehicle for a while. Now, if I was to unplug the jump starter now, and the vehicle was to immediately die, then your alternator is bad because the alternator can't charge the battery. Now, you never want to keep your alternator charging a dead battery because you could kill your alternator. For those of you who do not have a jump starter, can use this jump leads. Alright, so you've heard me talk about an alternator. Now, for those of you who do not know what an alternator is, in layman's terms, an alternator is what charges your battery while your vehicle is running. So there is a lot more that I can get into an alternator. However, I'll leave that to another video. Typically, an alternator is driven off your serpentine belt, and it's got a pulley on the side of it, and that pulley is run by the belt. So your crankshaft actually runs the serpentine belt, and the serpentine belt will spin, and that'll spin your alternator, and that's what charges your battery. Now, if you guys are in a position where your vehicle does start with a jump starter, what you can do is you can take the vehicle for a drive. However, do exercise caution just in case anything happens, such as the vehicle dies off. Now, as you take it for a drive, the alternator will start charging the battery. But again, if you can, give it a full charge up. This is the battery post cleaner. Take my 10mm socket and then undo this battery. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this one out. This is the battery cleaner, and you can see on top of here this you do have some corrosion. What you're going to do is you can see this little brushes right here, and you're going to put it on the post right here and then just push it in. And you can see how clean that battery post looks now. You can see all the filth in there. Now, you do the same for this. I'm not going to show you the same thing. Now, what you can do is you can now take the other side out, and on the other side, you'll have a little brush, and that little brush is to clean the inside of your battery terminal like so. So you put this one in right here. You're going to plug your battery charger directly into this post like so. Just move these two aside so you can see this is how it should look. Alright, so now I've determined it's only 2.5 volts on the battery. What I'm going to do is charge the battery using my battery charger. Now, what if you do not have a battery charger? What I recommend is to use jumper cables and hook it up to another vehicle and then start up this vehicle, and then you should be able to jump the battery. But bear in mind, if the battery is really low on power, your alternator is really going to take an impact. So I would suggest to unbolt the battery and take it to your nearest auto parts store. You should be able to then get them to fully charge the battery and do a state of health check. They can do what's called a load test on the battery, and that'll determine whether you can keep the battery or whether it's worth chucking away. So now I'm charging up the battery. It's worth charging up and then driving the vehicle, or it's also worth, if at all you can start the vehicle, just to give it a long drive. A short drive is not going to work. You have to go for a long drive, maybe about a 20-mile drive, and then come back, and your battery should be fairly well charged. Not fully charged, but fairly well charged. So now I fully charged up the battery. Now what I'm going to do next is I'm going to use my multimeter to actually test the voltage of the battery. Now, for those of you who have got DC, you need to have 20, so DC 20. And then what you're going to do is you're going to probe the positive and probe the negative, and that's reading as 12.76 for me. So that means the battery is now fully charged. Now we've determined that we do have a fully charged battery, or at least it's good enough to start the vehicle now. Now this is your battery and alternator tester. You do not need this. However, this is just an additional step that I'm showing you. So an alternator tester shows it as faulty or good, and then the state of the battery, either fully charged, partially charged, low charge, or battery above 10 volts. If the battery is around about 9 volts or so, this might not illuminate. So all you got to do is take your positive alligator clip and hook it to the positive, and your negative to the negative. So as you can see here, that shows that it is partially charged and battery over 10 volts. Now because it's an old battery, 12.76 might be considered partially charged, because I could have charged it for another 2-3 hours. It's a 60 amp hour battery and I did charge it for around 8 hours. If I would have put it 10 hours, it would be fully charged. So now what I'm going to do is put the positive terminal back in first. There'll be a tiny little shock, which is normal. Okay, so you want to push that down. We're going to put our negative terminal back in and there'll be a little tiny shock. Put this battery cap right back in. So now you can see the engine is running and you can see it's a fully charged battery and the alternator is good. So you're all good right there. Just in case you can't see, there it is. We have got the car all back up and running. Turn on your lights. Lights work great. And then I'm going to show you how you can test it from the inside of your vehicle. Alright, so as you can see, it has started to pour down with rain. Now, for those of you who do not have an alternator tester or a multimeter, you can use this particular unit, which is a battery voltmeter. You can basically plug in your USB port as well. So what I'm going to do is just plug that one into my cigarette lighter port and we'll put it that way. So as you can see here, it's now on 14.1. That means the alternator is charging. Now typically you want it to be somewhere between 13.8 and about 14.4. Now it does vary a little bit, so what I'd recommend is you take the vehicle for a drive, and then once you're back you should be able to see it spike up a little bit more to about 14.4. As you can see, the engine is on. Now how about the battery? What's the voltage of the battery? So what you got to do is turn off the key, take it out, and then you're going to put the key into run position 2. Once you put it into run position 2, that will show you your battery voltage. You can see it's 12.8 volts, so that means it is properly charged. Alright, I hope this video has been useful and informative. Please consider subscribing if you haven't already, and look at the rain. This is exactly what I got to put up with, so give this video a thumbs up and please subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.